Hello there, welcome to the garden. We've got a beautiful evening out here and I am coming out to do kind of an exciting garden chore, at least exciting in the sense that it means that we're really making progress in the growing season, and that is I need to tie up my tomatoes for the first time. So I'm growing a few tomatoes along the fence line and on the arch trellis, and I'm going to start the process of training them to these trellising spaces. So I thought I would just kind of give you an update on the tomatoes and then show you how I'm going to tie them up. I use twine. I've used twine for a few years now and always had really good luck with it. So I don't tie them very tight by any means. I never had any issue with the twine damaging any of the plants. And what I really love about the twine is that if it like falls off and falls into the garden, it just breaks down and turns back into soil. This is just basic jute twine. It works really well. So the first tomatoes are over here on the arch trellis. This is a fun bed. I've got the gomphrena here, actually a little bit of basil coming up, a couple of zinnias. I've got some sunburst patty pan squash and my salad bush cucumbers just blooming away and starting to put on some cucumbers. This is actually some millet, which is just going to be pretty kind of decorative. I thought would be fun in and amongst everything in the bed. And then over here, we've got a few apple blossom snapdragons that I started from seed in like January. I started these so long ago, but they're starting to look like maybe they're gonna head up and we're gonna have blooms. Very fun. With some of these plants, when it's been a long, growing, I don't know, I've been growing them since January, it feels like such an investment of time and energy, and it's so cool when you see them starting to really, produce the flowers like that and everything. It's super exciting. And same here with the tomatoes. We started these in end of February. Look at them now. So this guy is growing really big and beautiful. I am guessing, I made a note in a video when I planted all of these. I don't know actually off the top of my head which one is which because I didn't put any labels. I'm guessing this is the Juliet tomato, but I planted a bunch of different like cherry tomato style tomatoes to go on the trellis here, and so we will just figure out once they start producing tomatoes. And actually I'll go back and find the video where I planted these, and if I can remember, or you can always remind me in the comments, I'll try to link the video where I planted all these so you can see what I actually planted in this bed. But really looking super healthy, and just in the last couple weeks here have really put on growth. So this is the trellis. I'll give you the full view of the arch trellis here. It's where the tomatoes are going to grow on, and they'll grow all the way up this. This is like 15 feet if you go from one side all the way up and over to the other side. So a really good size. And last year my Juliet tomatoes almost made it like all the way over the trellis. They grew at least 12 feet or so. So plenty of room for them to grow. And they're not yet to the first like rung on the arch. Once they get up here, I'm basically just gonna start like weaving them in and around the trellis. But for right now, what I think I'm gonna do is just come and really loosely put some twine here to just secure them to the base so that they don't start flopping over and falling onto the bed. And this will also give me a chance to get a good look at them and come in and trim out any of these lower leaves. With my tomatoes, I tend to keep them pretty trimmed up as far as the lower leaves, which just helps to prevent like fungal things and stuff. We do get a lot of like powdery mildews, and I get all kinds of different funguses and things like that because we're in a very, very hot, humid area. So it's just like the perfect breeding ground, I guess, for those kind of things. So I'm gonna get them, let's see, just basically secured here against the trellis. I'm just going to take a really loose, long thing of twine, and I'll do a couple. Tomato plants don't get so thick at the base that I can't have a couple secured by the same piece of twine. And I just like to limit how much twine I use because I know myself, and I'm not going to want to be tearing, you know, all this twine off the trellis at the end of the season. And then I'll trim out the lower leaves. Okay, here is the other side, and the tomatoes are looking super good over here as well. So same thing, I'm just going to secure them to the trellis. And I don't know if these are volunteer tomatoes from last year's last year's plants that I had here, or if these are the seedlings I planted. I know I have a sun gold over here and another Juliet. We'll just find out, but I'm just gonna tie them up to the trellis and get that all set up. All right, there they are, all tied up. So, you know, it's not making a biggest difference at this point, but as they continue to grow, it'll really help to keep them just closer to the trellis, and I won't deal with as many, you know, issues of them pulling off. While we're over here, I thought I would show you these peas, which I realized I need to come in and harvest. These are a yellow snow pea. Super, super fun. I think they were called a golden snow pea. I got the seeds from Emma Gardner. And I actually realized that this plant is covered in peas. Look at this harvest. Let me taste one. I'm gonna be honest, they're pretty. They don't have a ton of flavor. It's very mild pea. Certainly good. No reason I wouldn't grow them. They're very pretty. I like the kind of like yellow, I don't know, it's just sort of, it's different and kind of unique looking, but that one is better. That was a little bit of an older one, a little bit bigger, and that had a little bit more flavor. Crisp, like almost kind of fruity. All right, you want to let them get a little bit bigger. The bigger ones are much better. Kind of fruity and light, really good. Actually, I take that back. They have lots of flavor if you pick the bigger ones, and they're really delicious. So, note to self, leave them on longer and let them get big, and then yeah, just sort of like this fruity light pea flavor. That is really yummy. All right, I'm gonna set them over here and go back and tie up the last tomatoes that I have to tie up today. All right, here are my other tomatoes growing along the fence line here, and these are all my big slicers. I'm pretty happy with how they look. They might be like just a little bit less robust as they would be if they were in full sun, but again, I'm hoping like once they get really big and tall that we'll start to, you know, have some, they'll get more sun, I guess, the taller they get, and then they'll start looking a little bit better. But I'm just gonna tie them up to the fence. The nice thing about the fence is it's like a built-in trellis, so this one should be pretty easy. Okay, so everything is all secured now. And you know, it doesn't look like much, but I'm glad I just got that done and started early. It's definitely something with tomatoes, like just start early with all of your trellising and pruning and all of that. It's so much easier to do it at the beginning than to try to go back in and have to do, you know, more pruning and everything. If you just get started and yeah, and get everything trellis from the start, it'll be much easier. Now these tomatoes are going to be growing up along with stillwater clematis. I actually have in containers here, but they are going to grow on the inside while the tomatoes grow on the outside of the trellis. And how beautiful is this? Now, stillwater clematis are supposed to be one that continue to bloom throughout the whole season. They are not, you know, some clematis just bloom in the spring or bloom in late summer. Stillwaters are supposed to be a season-long clematis. So hopefully we'll have beautiful blue blooms all the way through the season right next to the tomatoes. I think that would be lovely. But sometimes I know some clematis vines tend to look not so great in the middle of summer. I'm really hoping, I mean, just look at how beautiful these are. I hope they stay like that. I hope they keep looking good. Oh my gosh, I'm covered in wood chips and things. I hope they keep looking good throughout the whole season, but if they don't, then we'll have the tomatoes on the trellis and they will be able to just take off where the clematis leave off, and it should be really good. I wanted to give you an update too on the other tomatoes that I have that I do not need to trellis. So if you don't want to mess with trellising and you don't want to mess with pruning and you don't want to mess with any of those other things, but you still want maybe like some cherry tomatoes, you can always do dwarf tomatoes. So there's determinate tomatoes which get like just a couple feet. Those are great, less maintenance than the big ones. But there are also dwarf tomatoes that stay like under a foot. These are all my dwarf tomatoes. I've got Tiny Tim's, Red Velvet, Patio Choice. All of these are going to stay very small. I think the Tiny Tims might be the biggest. They get about like 1.5 feet tall and just covered in fruit. And as you can see, I've got them just in this little hay rack planter. And they are going to be perfectly happy in this. I do not need to stake them or prune them or do anything. I just let them go, do their thing. I will come in and like if some of their leaves are starting to get a little bit, you know, kind of funny, I'll take some of those leaves off. But honestly, I don't even really do as much of that like I do on my other tomatoes. I just kind of let them go, and they're like the lowest maintenance tomato. Now, they're really good, like a little, these Tiny Tims are pretty delicious little kind of like snack size cherry tomatoes. You're not going to get the big slicers. I'm hoping that my big slicing tomatoes do well because I would love to have some really great tomato sandwiches and that kind of thing. But as far as just like cherries, those little micro dwarf tomatoes will do the trick and are super fun if you just have like, you know, a really small patio or something, or you just want to do one pot and you don't want to mess with all the maintenance of tomatoes, you know, pruning and whatnot. Those are a great option too. So anyways, I'm starting to lose the sunlight, so I am going to go ahead and say goodbye. But thank you as always so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.